You are more. You are as integrated as to your fullest self and to the divine as you can be at this. What word would that be? It is not time, it is not place, it is not ability, it is not... We are in uncharted territory. And that is of our truest nature, to always expand, explore, and have fun with this. We were still expanding, but we had, there were ideas put forward that expansion in the universe of the souls, as done with parameters and rules that had been set forth, was adding to the beauty of the all. And there was a kind of beauty, because from the perspective of the divine, we are inclined to see the beauty in everything. So we saw the experiment of the beauty, and the beauty of trying a, what will we call that? A very regulated expansion. The nature of divine expansion is very regulated. Oh, no, not regulated. No, this is difficult. Okay. This has been the beginning topic in allowing you to see things more from your truest perspective. We have carefully expanded that perspective, acclimated you into that perspective, so that you could understand not only what is happening and the scale in which it is happening, but be able to, the fullest you is participating, but to allow the you that is in the darkest of the dark at this moment to be able to more fully participate in the divine outworking. We're going to help you to understand. You've been given pieces, and we're going to help you see the overview and how things worked out. The distortion that was being experienced in the darkest of the dark of the souls who had become lost and bogged down, mired, without escape in the darkest of the dark, was such that it was growing and not improving. And we allowed, within the universe of the souls, them to use methods and procedures that they had in place to try to assist in this situation. But there were a sizable amount of those that had created this hierarchical experiment that were not willing to give up or move beyond the hierarchy. They had become addicted to the thrill of feeling superior to another. And some had actually distorted to the point that they found pleasure in watching the lostness of those in the darkest of the dark. They were not able to actually really they were becoming themselves. They were expanding the darkest of the dark to themselves, though they thought they were somehow higher and more enlightened, because they were as they felt, the puppet masters. And they laughed and at the creating of problems and watching the catastrophes that were occurring in the darkest of the dark. There were many, I will use the word arguments, there were many philosophies. There were many philosophies that were put forward and that were supported by others that made the argument that as everything must always return to the divine, this is beneficial to understand the darkest dark of the dark, and that there are things that are being learned that can only be learned there. And being of that which is a very curious nature and loving to learn and explore with that which we had not already explored, we said, okay, a soul can go and live a life in the darkest of the dark, and they will learn things, and it will expand things, and it will broaden the great everything. Even though we were recognizing that there were those who considered themselves puppet masters, were also being pulled into the darkest, or creating the darkest of dark. In fact, actually, their dark was even darker and deeper than those who they thought were in the darkest of dark. We felt that these also would return to their divinity. And so, though they thought they were higher up and orchestrating, we were watching them from outside and saying, okay, let's just see what they can do. Let's see how they can go. And we were hearing the cries, the muffled cries, but we were also being told and shown that these souls had been convinced that this is actually a beneficial path. What is that thing that they do on earth? That thing that they do that? Oh yes, it is when they are experiencing a difficulty, maybe like an exercising or a physical exploration, and their body is telling them it is time to stop, and they revel in pushing beyond what their body has told them not to do, and they say, look, I went beyond divinity, I went beyond my body, I have gone beyond, I am greater because I have pushed past my divinity. It's a very sad thing, because when they do that, they distorted and damaged themselves. They distorted and damaged themselves. Every time you do not listen to your body, or you push past that point where everything is saying stop and you keep going on, that is not a good thing. That is not a beneficial thing. But this philosophy became so ingrained into the soul universe that souls were convinced that to explore extremes to see just how far they could push it, they believed they were pushing beyond divinity or expanding divinity, when in fact they were distorting and destroying it. Not destroying. No, not destroying. Just distorting it and distorting it. And it was becoming smaller and smaller, not expanding. You as the time weaver, who is connected to both the individual and the big picture simultaneously, saw the outworkings, saw what was going on, and saw what it was leading to and how it was affecting the all. And you foresaw that the outcome was going to be a great darkening and loss, and a great pulling in. And you saw this clearly and like, no, I cannot allow it. that happens. You do not understand what is actually happening. You do not understand where this is going. And there were those who were, I will call them opponents, those who held to that philosophy, who pushed back very strongly at her cries of this is not right, this is not right, this is not working out right, we have to stop this. When we say she is extreme. In the divine, the time weaver is of one of the more extreme natures, because she sees and she knows. She is, and is also connected to all. Her passion is the passion of a mother for a small child. It knows no bounds. And she saw these ones who were harming and were hurting, and she wanted them to stop and to be realigned. But she also wanted to save all those who had gotten caught up in it. And so in a bit of a, what would seem from the outside to be a rash, and we thought it was rash to a point. And dramatic. Yes, we will call it, we thought she was being a bit of a drama queen. I'm going to rush down in there. I'm going to have a part of me, a part of the divine, not an actual part of the divine, will go into this darkest of the dark, into this jumbled mess, and you will experience it because I will be bringing it back to you real time. And you just did it. You just jumped in, and it was shocking. And it was a shaking throughout the divine to see the experiences. And we kept assuming and hoping that something would adjust and that she would be able to bring enough divine into the darkest dark and that it would be fine. We watched it unfold. But in line with what she was experiencing, she says, those who are stuck in the darkest of the dark have had these contracts and these guides and these things that are preventing them from getting out. If I were to go into this place and quickly the divine were to come and rescue me out, then you would not experience what it is to be stuck there. To have no way out. So we had to experience that place, that experience, the loss, the stuck, the desperation, and in many and varied aspects that presented themselves. We had to make sure that she was able to continue on to get the fullest picture. That was quite a task because those of the darkness that knew who she was tried to destroy her or infect her. And they were quite relentless. But it was necessary for us to follow those paths with her. And God watched, and we felt, but she was also, as she was experiencing that down there, she was also making the arguments. But those who had opposed her argument or had differing viewpoints were losing their ground because she was able to clearly demonstrate what she had been warning us. Those of the darkest, the dark that are the puppet masters, when they started to see the divine light coming into the darkness, they worked up those whom they had the most control over to distract, work up emotions and energies, to hold out ideas that were most respected in the darkness, that were also very distorted from divinity. Instead of just allowing divinity to slowly move in and bring light and adjustment and healing and freedom, they have and are going complicated from your standpoint, but from our standpoint, ridiculous effort. Their perspective is so limited that, and they see the universe of the souls as they're like the bully on the playground. They see the playground as their kingdom, and it is all that they know, and they think they are big and grand because they are the bullies and the orchestrators of the playground, not realizing that a playground is not a very large kingdom, and that they are just children in their understandings and abilities. So God was coming to a point of saying, okay, I've seen enough. It's getting worse, and I'm going to do something. And we worked at pulling her out slowly. But I will say, she had acclimated so well into there that she had taken up many of the ideals and philosophies to herself. But she always battled at them because the divinity of her would not allow them to become truly entrenched. Always tearing away at the philosophies. And so we had worked to pull her away even more so from that which she had been connected to there, and align her more openly with her divinity. This has been a process. And it has not always been as easy or as beautiful as she had wished, because in her acclimation, she had aligned with some of the darkest of the dark within the darkness to help bring light in. And as God was also working with them to help them to realign to their divinity, there were lessons, there were experiences, things had to be seen clearly. And this was not always comfortable and easy. And in the separation, so there are so many doubts that have been seeded into your existence, that so many fears as to your limitedness, that it is difficult to maintain your alignment to the divinity without allowing some of these doubts to creep in and undermine. But we have been expanding her vision and understanding of what is truth and real. And she has shared this path with others so that they also may reconnect and reawaken their own divinity.